If you know me or you've been around my channel for any time now basically, you will know that my favorite director of all time is the visionary French filmmaker Jacques Tati. My favorite of the bunch, PlayTime, which is currently in my top 3 favorite films of all time. Today I'm going to be continuing the series that I started off with Bicycle Thieves, and that is the overlooked classics. If that sounds interesting, let's get right into the video. Hello everybody, my name is Dominic from Dominic Talks Movies, the best place to talk about movies. And if you love to talk movies as well, you are definitely going to love my channel, so definitely consider hitting that subscribe button for more videos like this every single week. Now, as I said before, Jacques Tati is my favorite director of all time, and PlayTime is probably his most critically acclaimed film and definitely my favorite of the bunch. PlayTime is a subversive modern masterpiece that in my opinion doesn't get quite the recognition that I think it deserves. Sure, there are YouTubers out there like the Royal Oceans Film Society and Dr. Josh Matthews from Learning About Movies who praise this film, and it is some of their favorite films of all time. But I think across the board, when it comes to the general public and in general about like film critics, I think this film gets a lack of praise considering how amazing it actually is and how influential it was. Since I'm super passionate about Tati himself and specifically PlayTime, I thought I'd make a video sitting down and explaining why I love this movie so much. This isn't going to be so much of a scripted video as it's just going to be sort of a almost chilled, kind of laid back, almost like a conversation to you guys of why I love PlayTime. PlayTime is a 1967 French comedy about the clumsy Monsieur Hulot who finds himself perplexed by the intimidating complexity of a gadget-filled Paris. He attempts to meet with a business contact but soon becomes lost. His roundabout journey parallels that of the American tourist Barbara, played by Barbara Denick, and as they weave through the inventive urban environment, they intermittently meet, developing an interest in one another. They eventually get together at a chaotic new nightclub alongside a plethora of other quirky characters. Now, this is the plot synopsis for the film. It is quite a simple movie overall, and it is one that doesn't necessarily really have a set-in-stone plot. Going into shooting, Tati didn't really have a plot or even much dialogue to work with. They kind of just shot a bunch of things and put it together to make a kind of loose-fitting plot that is enough that it actually is sort of has a direction that it goes in and not is just everywhere and all over the place. That is what makes this such an amazing film, I think, because not only is it a film that you can go into and study for academic purposes because of the amazing cinematography and the set designs and all that sort of stuff, but it's also a film that you can go in and just kind of chill, have a laid back experience, and that's really what the film comes down to. At the end of the day, I think this is more an experience than anything. I think, put simply, this is kind of just a look into the mind of an incredibly unique person and director that is Jacques Tati, and we get to see kind of how he sees the world. And as you can see from a few of the videos and clips that I'll be showing on screen, you can see how he sees the world is such a unique concept, and it's such a more unique than I think a lot of other directors, in my opinion, because sure, there are directors out there, like, in my opinion, I see films from like Kelly Reichardt or Noah Baumbach are incredibly grounded and realistic, and that is amazing for other reasons. But when I go to Jacques Tati's films, I want a kind of out-of-body and completely weird and wacky and kind of very unique experience, and that is exactly what I get. This man sees the world like nobody else does. You kind of see things that he sees, and you realize that you never notice things like that, and it's kind of a really interesting experience to go through. And this is the same for basically all of his other films, but I think it is the strongest here in PlayTime. At the time of its shooting, PlayTime was actually the most expensive film ever shot in the country of France. It was the most money ever spent on a movie that was a French film, and that was a huge boundary breaker for a lot of people. And this also led to what a lot of people know about Tati is that he actually went into debt later in his career, and I think this is part of the reason what makes PlayTime so phenomenal, is because this is a clear passion project. If this wasn't so much of a passion project, he wouldn't have went into debt just to make one movie, but you can clearly tell this is the film that he wants to make, and so he poured his heart, his soul, and his money into this to make this insane set called Tativille, which is emulating, like skyscrapers and an airport terminal and roundabouts and a nightclub, and everything is like so lifelike and so realistic and amazing, but at the same time very like almost foreign. It seems like it's not on Earth. Everyone is so robotic, it's very ultra modernistic, and this is a film, as I said before, that set Tati into debt, which shows that this is the film that he always wanted to make, and you can tell through the screen that this is every ounce of passion in Tati's body was put into this film. Tati also shot this film in 70mm film, which means you get the wide angle, big full experience, and that is something that I also admire about this movie, is that there are no close-ups, no over-the-shoulder shots, no reaction shots. It is purely just medium long and long shots, so you can see the big picture all the time. It is also very deep focus, so you can see everything in frame completely in focus, and no shot really has a central focus for the most part, which is something that I love about this film, and that a lot of critics say that rewards rewatches for this film, because there is no central focus. You can kind of look all over the screen and see little details and little things and little like smaller focuses throughout the shots that I think is honestly brilliant. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a central focus in a shot. I think a lot of the time that is the best thing to do, but this really works because upon rewatch you can look in the background of a long shot, like when Tati is looking over the edge into this office building, and you can see the dude that he wants to have an interview with walking around, or you can see Mr. Lax in his kind of little cubicle. You can see people walking around, like you can see everything in these shots. And every single time I rewatch this movie, which I will tell you has been a lot more than I wish to admit, a lot more times than I wish to admit, but it's just like I notice so many new things that I didn't notice before, because I don't necessarily have to focus on the central plot, because A, there isn't really a central plot, and B, I already know what happens in the movie, so I can kind of pay attention to everything else happening. And unlike other films, this is the point, like you're supposed to see everything else that's happening. So this is a film that absolutely rewards rewatches, and that's something that I really love about it, because I love my films to be rewatchable. Now, something that Jacques Tati really wanted to accomplish with this film was he kind of wanted to bring Monsieur Hulot down a notch. He, in his other films like Mon Oncle and Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, as you can tell from the title of one of them, Monsieur Hulot was clearly the main focus, the main character, the person that you followed around and rooted for, and that is something that he loved doing. I absolutely love watching, but on this film he wanted to make it so all the characters are kind of on an equal playing field. They all are just as important as the next, and I think this is something that was absolutely achieved in PlayTime. Every single character that you come across, whether it just be in one scene or whether it be in a couple of scenes across the film, they all play a super important part in whenever they appear on screen. Take, for example, the doorman, who kind of lets Jacques Tati's character Monsieur Hulot in at the time when he's trying to work the machine and get Monsieur Hulot his interview. He is the most important character. Monsieur Hulot is there, he's waiting for his interview, but this doorman is the most important character, even though we kind of just forget about him after Monsieur Hulot gets lost in Paris. But that's not the point. The point is that he is the central focus, the main character of that scene, and that is something that is really awesome. Then you got Mr. Lax, who is the main focus when they're in the waiting room together, because Monsieur Hulot is kind of just watching how robotic this dude is with his, his routine before the interview, and he's kind of just like in shock. And in this scene, Mr. Lax is the main character, and it kind of goes throughout the whole film. And once we kind of meet the main character, I'd say, of the overarching story, which is Barbara, then she kind of becomes the main character of most of her scenes. But then again, even if she is in a scene, there are other characters that are just as important. But as I said, with Barbara, let me kind of continue on with her, because she is kind of the main grounding factor of this film. This film is all about how everything is ultra modernistic and everyone is kind of robotic and kind of strange in a way, and Barbara acts as that kind of grounding force in the film. She is the one normal person aside from Monsieur Hulot who is in this entire movie. Everyone else is wacky, crazy, weird in some sort of way, and these two, while being kind of quirky characters, are fairly normal. And that is something that is really awesome, because that makes the two central characters stand out in a way that doesn't seem forced. Barbara is obviously in Paris with her group of American tourist friends, and she stands out amongst this crowd because her friends are all here because they want to go to these expos and see all like this modern gadgets and how they could bring this back and use this at their house, or look at these very modern buildings that basically all look the same. And this joke was actually played out in one of the travel agencies. You can see posters for a bunch of big cities across the globe, and instead of having their sort of historical artifacts like say in like Rome, where you would usually see like the Colosseum on a poster, or you know, you got like Mount Fuji for Japan or something like that, for example, you see the exact same building on every single poster, kind of playing on the fact that this is ultra modernistic and this is what people want to see when they're touring now. And it's kind of very strange, and this is so part of the reason why I say this almost feels otherworldly, because even nowadays when things are basically ultra modernistic, this doesn't happen. But it's something that is part of Tati's sense of humor that I get a good laugh out of, and it's something that's really funny because Barbara notices and kind of is confused by it. But anyway, Barbara is the sort of normal one, because when everyone else is looking at these ultra modern buildings that they could probably drive 10 minutes away from their house and find, Barbara is the one that kind of wants to see the actual historical like buildings and artifacts and stuff like that. You can see in many different shots Tati uses reflections perfectly and beautifully, mostly because he didn't want to spend even more money to shoot at the Champs-Élysées, which Barbara, all as you can see in one scene, opens the door and you can see the reflection off the glass, or the Eiffel Tower. These would have been extremely expensive, so he had to kind of use these glass door reflections, but it still gets the point across that Barbara looks at this and sees like the Eiffel Tower, looks back at it and says, basically like indicates that that's where she would want to be rather than in these like office buildings or whatever. It's really, really interesting. And also another like reason and that you can see Barbara being the kind of normal one in the group is when she takes a picture of this little flower stand on the side of the road, because she says this is Paris, because this is like just a simple thing. Like it's a simple thing, but that's something that you would see in sort of the historical parts of Paris. It's just a little old lady selling some flowers on the side of the street. It's kind of like a semblance of normalcy in this ultra modernistic and strange world. And so she tries to take a picture of it, but it's just, you know, the jokes in that scene are kind of on the back burner, but the main focus is that she is taking a picture of basically the only normal thing in this city, and it's something that grounds her character in reality, and I love it for that. Now, I could not go this entire video without talking about the nightclub sequence. The nightclub sequence, if you don't know, is a 40-minute long sequence basically of them being in a nightclub. This is where Monsieur Hulot and Barbara basically get together and, you know, are just having a good time. This is what a lot of people, specifically Royal Oceans Film Society, describes as controlled chaos, because there are so many different characters and extras and actors in this shot. It is filled to the brim. Everything is crazy, chaotic. Everything is going down at once, but it's in a controlled way because you understand every little gag that's happening, whether it be the back of the seats making imprints on people's jackets or backs, or the light that doesn't work on the stairs up to the kind of upper deck and people are always tripping on that, or whether it's the drunk guy that's always falling out of the chairs, or whether it's the guy that's like clothes are always ripping and he has to go out and keep switching like uniform pieces with this guy outside. So there's this guy outside just wearing fully ripped uniform and just kind of standing there looking at everyone. There are so many different gags that are happening in this scene at one time, but it takes the time to kind of establish these and have them happening separately, but also sometimes at the same time when you can kind of point them out and see when they're happening. It's in such a beautifully orchestrated scene that is so crazy and chaotic, but at the same time kind of beautiful. I don't want to keep rambling on too much about this film because I could ramble on about this movie literally all day. This is one of my favorite movies ever made. There's not a single scene in this movie that I don't like, but I don't want to take this video out any longer. I think I explained my main points of this movie and why I love it so much, whether that be having to do with the technical aspects, the passion put into it, the kind of philosophical meanings of different characters or storylines, and then the infamous nightclub sequence. I think those four things kind of generally encapsulate my love for this film and kind of describe in general why I think Playtime is an overlooked masterpiece. And that is it for this video, guys. As I said before, if you enjoy videos like this or enjoyed this video, definitely make sure to leave a like down below, subscribe to my channel, and also hit that notification bell so you're the first person to know every single time I upload a brand new awesome movie video just like this one. I'm going to try and get back into the swing of things. I know I haven't been uploading super consistently lately, but I've just been absolutely buried in schoolwork and it's been really stressful, but I'm going to try and get at least 1 or 2 movie reviews every week out to you guys and try and maybe get one other video every week out. So I'm not promising anything, but I'm going to try and get 3 videos a week out for you guys. But that is basically it for this video, guys. I will see you all in the next one. Peace.